Stop with the questions. Celebrate.
And then they say, is Donald Trump an intellectual? Trust me, I'm like a smart person. Yosemite's one of the wettest we've ever seen from the standpoint of water.
Mike Lindell's a conspiracy.
Well, you haven't. Person, woman, man, camera, TV. They said nobody gets it in order. It's actually not that easy, but for me it was easy.
Amazing. He can't sit down. He's got a burning in his butthole. He's got a fire. He's got a flame coming out of his butthole.
Big, massive dumps.
Oh, I have a term for that. I call it corporate communism.
Somebody sent me a thing this morning where they're talking about putting the vaccine into salad dressing.
You see, this is a simple meme that you would find on the internet, but this meme is very real.
You ain't seen nothing yet until you see the flaming butthole.
Putting us on our knees to China.
Now witness the firepower of this fully armed and operational battle station.
The Republican Party's racist.
Oh my God! He admitted it!
What's up, everybody? It's Thursday. Welcome to the show. We're gonna have a good show today. Lots of interesting / depressing stuff as usual. We're gonna start out with, of course, Republicans rewriting the First Amendment, specifically on freedom of religion. Apparently, Mike Pence thinks that you don't have it. I'm sorry, not freedom of religion, but freedom from religion. Yes. So I'm, of course, going to point out how he's absolutely wrong. We have Lindsey Graham doing the "we're not racist" thing because guess what? We've got a black guy. I love it. That's such a fantastic way, that they really show us what they're thinking. Amazing. We have Marjorie Greene versus freedom of speech. Interesting. We have police officers bragging about beating up protesters. That is not shocking audio, but we'll show it to you anyway. Climate change. We're going to talk about how doomed we are due to popular request. I will be talking about climate change, so buckle up, strap in. Not going to be fun. And then, of course, we're also going to talk about charity. How charity, when you attempt to do charity for the unhoused, for homeless people, it turns out the city doesn't exactly like it when you help homeless people. Again, not a surprise. So we'll get into that story and how a woman was arrested for doing said charity is fighting back. So wait a minute, we got a twist here. We'll see what happens. That said, why don't we dive into the first story here? And it is right-wingers versus the Constitution. Shocker. Shocker. All right. Former Vice President Mike Pence is trying to rewrite the Constitution, trying to rewrite history by claiming that Christians essentially have a right to force their religion on everyone else.
These lefties want to scrap religion, Mike Pence, and I think it's a terrible mistake.
Right. Well, the radical left believes the freedom of religion is the freedom from religion. But it's nothing the American founders ever thought of or generations of Americans fought to defend. I said today here in Houston that the The source of our nation's greatness has always been our faith in God, our freedom, and our vast natural resources. And the good news is that after 4 years of the Trump-Pence administration, I'm confident that we have a pro-religious freedom majority on the Supreme Court of the United States. And I'm confident that come Election Day, November the 8th, you're going to see that freedom majority around the country turn out and vote pro-freedom majorities in the House and in the Senate and in state houses around the country. So stay tuned, Larry. Help is on the way.
Help is on the way. Help is on the way. Oh, is that same help, applied to the people who tried to murder you on January 6th? I'm never going to let him forget about that. Again, these are the people that chanted, "Hang Mike Pence."
Mike Pounds.
Hang Mike Pence. But I must have been hanging my pants. Sorry. I must have gotten that, chant confused. But, okay, whatever, right? What I'm saying, same kind of people, Christian nationalists. And that's exactly what you're caping for if you're Mike Pence. Now, I will give him credit on one thing. He did get something correct. The fact that we have vast natural resources. Yeah, that's kind of where some of our economic power had come from. But you know what? What he leaves out is the workers, the people that had actually helped create that power. Workers, working class people, labor unions, people getting together. And, he leaves that out, of course. So let's get to the important thing, though, where he's trying to rewrite the First Amendment and claim that it's freedom. Yes, we are so pro-freedom that we are going to force our religion down your throat. Look at how much we love freedom, guys. Look how much we love freedom. Freedom, freedom, freedom. Look how much we love the Constitution, even though we didn't actually read it. We're literally pretending that the First Amendment does not exist as written. I have the First Amendment. In fact, I'm using the First Amendment to explain the First Amendment. Meta. It's Meta. No, and not the crappy company. Here's what it says. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. Well, there's your freedom right there. The government cannot prohibit you from exercising your religious, beliefs and your freedom. That's great. We all believe in that. Or the press or the right of the people to peaceably assemble and to petition the government for redress of grievances. A lot of these things, by the way, all these things, Republicans have tried to actually stop you from doing. Weird. But we're pro-freedom, everybody. Pro-freedom. Now, nothing in that, by the way, nothing in the First Amendment says or suggests that Christianity should be part of the government. In fact, it actually says the opposite. There are no references to God anywhere in the Constitution. None. None. Yet. And you know why, by the way? You know why there are no references to it? Because the Founding Fathers were opposed to centralized religious power, as well as forcing people to believe in certain religions, or any religion. In fact, President Thomas Jefferson wrote in his 1776 Virginia statute for religious freedom that, quote, setting up their own opinions and modes of thinking as the only true and infallible, and as such endeavoring to impose on them on others, hath established and maintained false religions over the greatest part of the world and through all of time, and that to compel a man to furnish contributions of money for the propagation of opinions which he disbelieves and abhors is sinful and tyrannical. So what Mike Pence is doing is being literally tyrannical. That's his view. Yeah, we're going to get people pro-religious freedom, which essentially manifests into, look at one of the so-called pro-religious freedom decisions from the Supreme Court that is celebrated as pro-religious freedom, and that's Dobbs. Making sure that we strip millions of women, trans people, non-binary, of their rights over their own bodies. That's pro-religious freedom to these people, to these a-holes. But there's more. In fact, he said, no man should be compelled to frequent or support any religious worship, place, or ministry whatsoever, nor shall be enforced, restrained, molested, or burthened in his body or goods, No, nor shall any otherwise suffer on account of his religious opinions or belief, but that all men shall be free to profess, and by argument to maintain their opinions in matters of religion, and that the same shall in no wise diminish, enlarge, or affect their civil capacities. So, doing, again, what Pence and his Christian nationalist friends, also known as Nazis, want, in Jefferson's view, would be an infringement of natural rights. President James Madison, here's his statement on this. Quote, the settled opinion here is that religion is essentially distinct from civil government and exempt from its cognizance, that a connection between them is injurious to both, that there are causes in the human breast. Always funny when they bring that up, but okay, but I mean, enough of that.
Sexual anarchy.
Okay. Which ensure the perpetuity of religion without the aid of the law. Madison also explained that in an 1819 letter, noting that a legal establishment of religion without a toleration could not be thought of, and with toleration is no security for public quiet and harmony, but rather a source itself of discord and animosity. You want to talk about bringing the country together, right? Well, or I should say, lack of bringing the country together. When we talk about division, Republicans are always talking about, Democrats are so divisive. Literally trying to force everyone into your religion is divisive, because not everybody believes in your religion. Not everybody should have to be forced to believe in your religion. That's the whole point of the country, so that you don't have to believe in this religion or believe whatever religion you want. That's literal freedom. Do whatever you want. That said, there's more. Benjamin Franklin argued in 1780 that any religion that seeks to impose itself is simply bad. Well, I mean, I can't disagree with that and the very plain language there. Yes, it's true. And there it is. What you have here is Mike Pence being a liar, an authoritarian, and an absolute cowardly human being.
Mike Pounds.
Again, by the way, let me address this final lie that the left actually wants to scrap religion. I'm not asking to completely eliminate or destroy religion. No, I don't care what your religion is. Most of the left doesn't either. I don't care what you do in your own home, your church, so long as it doesn't hurt anyone else. As long as you can, and as long as you stay away from government. That's the whole point. Churches, or the whole reason that churches are not taxed, that they're tax exempt, because they're not supposed to be preaching religion from the pulpit. Now, what has the right wing done? They have started preaching religion and government from the pulpit. So, or preaching politics from the pulpit. That's what they've been doing. So yeah, of course, that's a problem. You're not supposed to do that. That's why you don't pay taxes. Fine. I think, okay, look, if you do want to preach politics from the pulpit, that's fine. Then you got to pay. You got to pay. You pay your taxes. That's it. We're not going to give you special treatment. If you're going to act in a political, capacity, then you should pay to play. That's it. But look, that said, the government obviously shouldn't be in your church, and your church shouldn't be in the government. That's the way it's supposed to work. That's the way this country was set up by the founders. But you have Christian nationalists like Mike Pence, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert. They don't believe in our way of government. They don't believe in it. And by the way, you could also make the argument that they don't believe in their own religion. If they did, why would they need to, feel the need to force people into it? I mean, if you actually believed in a God, well, any real God wouldn't need the government to force people to believe in it, that religion. But would they? Would they? Do they believe that their God is so weak and so, feckless that they need the power of government, the power of the gun, to step in on that, God's behalf to force you to believe in that God? Christians, do you believe that your God is this weak? Well, apparently right-wing authoritarian Christians do. The Christian nationalists, they believe or they agree with Mike Pence. But everyone else, I'm asking you, do you agree with him? Or do you think Mike Pence is full of crap? Is your God powerful and strong and can stand on their own? Or are they weak and need the people in the government to force everyone else into their religion? Make up your mind. Make up your mind. All right. Moving on. Go to Herschel Walker.
Why Herschel? They're beating all of our guys up, but what is it about this guy? He changes the entire narrative of the left. We're a party of racists, Sean. Me and you're a racist. The Republican Party's racist. Well, what happens when the Republican Party elects and nominates Herschel Walker, an African-American black Heisman Trophy winner, right? Olympian. It destroys the whole narrative.
That was Lindsey Graham saying we can't be racist. We've got a black friend. Oh, is that it? Oh, sure. What is it about this guy? What is it about Herschel Walker? I don't know, Lindsey. What is it about him? What is it? Maybe it's the fact that, look, he's a former football player. All right. That talks about how the black community, we're failing the black community. Where are the fathers? Where are the fathers? I don't know, Herschel. Where are the fathers? I mean, you're one. We keep finding out that you have more and more secret kids, and that you would have had more secret kids if you hadn't, offered to pay for abortions and had actually paid for abortions. Again, it keeps happening. Right wingers are like, oh my God, why does this keep coming out just days before the election? I mean, that's a good question, right? Well, a better question would be why didn't Herschel Walker wrap it up? I mean, that's a better question, I would think. Because again, he keeps having secret children pop up everywhere. Pretty soon we're going to find out we're all Herschel Walker's children. Isn't that something? But look, that said, the reason they like Herschel Walker is because, as I've explained before, he aligns with their policy positions. He wants tax cuts for rich people because he himself is fairly wealthy. He wants deregulation because he runs a business, right? And he likes free prison labor. Did a story on how Herschel Walker, company that he contracts with, or his company contracts with, does, uses and exploits prison labor, which is majority black. Doesn't pay them. In short, he's the perfect Republican candidate. I mean, add to that he's one of the people that can deflect charges of racism against the Republican Party. That's why Lindsey Graham's like, it's my buddy, it's my pal, look at him. He makes it so that people can't call me racist. Right? No, that's not how that works. That's not how that works at all. I love how honestly they believe getting a black person on their side protects them from charges of racism. It's weird. It's bizarre how they do that. And it's bizarre that they think, oh yeah, no, if we just trick enough black people into being on our side, or I should say, if we recruit enough black people on our side and offer them tons and tons of money to go out and talk bad about black people, we can trick other black people and everyone else into thinking that we're not racist. I mean, I don't understand how they think that works. It doesn't work. The policies and the rhetoric speak for itself. And by the way, there's a reason that this didn't work when they recruited Candace Owens, Tim Scott, Justice Clarence Thomas. I mean, what makes you think that adding another wealthy black man on your side would convince people to, into forgetting all of the racist policies that Republicans support? Now, I'm talking things like redlining, voter suppression, defunding public education, cities. And of course, there's also the classical racism. You can go back to the favorite, the hits, the things that they would openly support before and no longer admit is real. I've had conversations myself, and I know it's anecdotal, where Republicans are like, Southern strategy, not real, didn't actually happen. The former head of the RNC, Michael Steele, had admitted that, yes, they used the Southern strategy. The whole purpose of that was to rely on tapping into white resentment over growing minority populations in the South in order to get Republican votes. It literally happened. Literally happened. And quotes like these, you'll love this. This is Ronald Reagan's advisor, Lee Atwater, in 1981 saying this, quote, by 1968, you can't say the N-word. That hurts you, backfires. So you say stuff like forced busing, which, by the way, President Joe Biden also used to be against forced busing. And then, of course, you have tons of Republicans saying states' rights and all that stuff. States' rights. I mean, you still hear right-wingers using that argument all the time. States' rights. So to do what, Lindsay? To do what? To do what? We're Republicans. To do what? Oh, but there's more. In 2005, there was a Princeton study that really showed racist attitudes in the Republican Party. 79% of Republican respondents agreed with the statement, quote, if blacks would only try harder, they could be just as well off as whites. This is why we need critical race theory. This is why. That kind of statement right there. Oh, if they just tried harder. They're lazy. They're not trying hard enough. No, they need to get up off their butt and get a job. That's what they need to do. Ignoring all the historical ways that black people were not allowed to advance, to catch up to their white peers. Ridiculous. In 2014, by the way, 20% of Republican voters still opposed interracial dating. And then, of course, you have the history of gerrymandering. You have Republicans that have worked hard to draw district lines that disenfranchise particularly black voters. I mean, it got so obvious that in Texas, a number of those districts were deemed unconstitutional because they were such obviously racially prejudiced. Getting more recent, the birther movement. You remember the birther movement? I talked about the birther movement all the time in the show, saying to President Obama, not really the president because he was born in Kenya. And that was pushed by former President Donald Trump. And now, again, going back to critical race theory, well, what if Republicans, glommed on to attack? Critical race theory. And what is that? Well, look, it's actually a college-level course that is, pretty highly advanced. It's not taught normally. So it's taught in very specific schools of law, right? And law programs. But Republicans have expanded the meaning of critical race theory into anything that talks about racism or black history. That's it. It's a catch-all term. I can go on further, but I think you get the point by now about how the current Republican Party is largely based on racism and white grievance politics and pushes a white nationalist agenda. And the reason is, of course, they do this because they want to usher in fascism. Fascism is great for billionaires, corporate donors, who are majority white and in charge, and do not want to lose their status, their standing, their political power to minorities. And the best way to do that is to make sure that minorities never have equal access to opportunities and resources, like a good education, like being able to buy houses, to get credit, loans from banks, the same sorts of business opportunities that white people traditionally enjoy. That's how they shut black people out. So, unfortunately, you have people like Candace Owens, like Herschel Walker, that are helping this white nationalist agenda. So congratulations, Herschel. I hope if you win, I hope it's worth it. But honestly, I hope you lose. Big time. All right. CRT and woke are used the same way. Yeah. It's pretty ridiculous. All right. Why don't we move on? Go to Marjorie Greene. It appears that Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene doesn't actually believe in free speech. Take a look at this exchange during one of her gatherings.
And that's something that they're being taught. It wasn't this way.
It's TikTok.
Only a few years ago.
It's TikTok.
Yeah. TikTok. Is it on TikTok a lot?
It needs to be gone.
And Instagram and other social media. But if you post on social media about election fraud or you speak up in any way with your conservative values, they will cancel your account and they will delete you.
I wish we could delete Marjorie Greene. But no, that's not what that's not what we're doing. It's funny how they care so much about free speech that they also say, oh, by the way, you should, get rid of TikTok, social media, Instagram, ban it all. And remember, Republicans, going back to Donald Trump, want to get rid of Section 230, which would crush free speech on these platforms. These companies would be held liable for the things that their users will post. Therefore, what do you think that's going to happen? It's going to chill speech. They obviously have no idea. Okay. No, maybe I'm wrong. They do know what they're doing. That's the outcome that they want because they don't believe in free speech. They don't believe in speech at all. Only for them. Now, again, I don't know the context of which they're referring to, but I'm going to guess it has something to do with transgender people. Again, she says, well, they're learning it from somewhere. Well, learning what? Well, I've talked to and watched enough right-wingers to kind of intuit the things that they're talking about, the talking points that they use. And so whenever you hear them say something like, oh, they're learning stuff from the internet, they're learning this from TikTok, it was never like this before. It wasn't like this a couple of years ago. Well, they're referring to the LGBTQIA plus community. Now, that community has always existed. But nowadays, thankfully, they've become more comfortable with coming out and being themselves and living their truth. Now, the religious far right, of course, well, they've created a moral panic. Oh my God, things are changing. And it's scary because now girls have blue hair and like other girls. But I don't know if she's a girl anymore. I just can't tell anymore. I don't understand the world. And I refuse to change. I refuse. That's what this is. They refuse to change. They refuse to learn. They refuse to accept knowledge and change their opinions based on new information. I guess that's what makes them conservative. They're conserving the past or past attitudes and refuse to evolve. That's why they don't believe in evolution. That said, there are plenty of people out there, normal people who don't understand transgender, don't understand certain LGBTQIA plus issues, pronouns, etc. And it's actually okay to not understand these things. And it's not a bad thing to ask. In fact, I think it's a good thing to ask. And I think it's also a good thing to, go to these communities and talk to people and try to understand things. And let me just also say that not every trans person is obligated to explain everything to you. I get it. But if you're curious and if you come in to these communities and you're open-minded and you listen and you try to, understand their perspective, then they're going to be very open and welcoming into explaining who they are and why they're not a danger to you. And by the way, there's also plenty of actual resources for you to look up. But I would be careful, again, because there's so much misinformation, disinformation, and just hateful rhetoric online when it comes to, referring to trans people. That said, in order to do that, you would have to be intellectually curious. You'd have to be open-minded. And you might actually have to be forced to learn something, which leaves out a lot of right-wingers. Not all of them, but a lot of them. Now, TikTok and social media, interestingly enough, has actually been an incredible tool for LGBTQI plus acceptance, showing people that are in that community that they're not alone, and that trans people, they're normal people, they're trying to live their true, authentic lives as their authentic selves, and that they're not a danger to you. But at the same time, social media nowadays has become a double-edged sword. Yes, now you have this incredible openness and people are open to be themselves, but that since social media is public, well, that can attract some of the more hateful people who are not open-minded. Accounts like Libs of TikTok, for example, will take the videos, they'll attach comments and commentary to those videos, maybe even selectively edit them, that does so in a way to demonize these people, accuse them of pedophilia, accuse them of grooming children, etc. And so that is the danger. Nonetheless, I do think that social media has overall been a good thing when it comes to acceptance of, these communities. And that's why more people are identifying this way, because they see something that they feel on the inside. And they feel more comfortable saying, that is my truth. I've always been this way, but now I have the courage to come out. That said, getting back to, let's ban social media. Well, I thought the right wing wanted free speech. That's what you always tell us. Free speech, right? Free speech. We believe it's free speech. Well, she explains it, though. In that video, she thinks that free speech is being able to post lies about the election. The type of lies that led to violence on January 6th from Trump supporters against the government. Now, look, free speech does not involve inciting a riot. That is a literal crime. And so free speech also, by the way, is not saying what you want on a private platform. That's not protected speech. Protected against the government, sure. The government can come after you for making a comment, about somebody that is less than nice on a social media platform. That doesn't mean that same social media platform can't ban your ass for it. They reserve the right, thanks to the fact that you signed a terms of service agreement before you even signed up for these websites, to, give them the power to delete your account at any point in time. They're allowed. Finally, the last thing here is the fact that she doesn't mention right-wing websites like True Social. True Social actually ends up doing a lot of deleting of accounts, lots of silencing and censoring, non-conservative opinions. Oh no, no way, really? True Social, though, I thought that they were for free speech. I thought they cared about free speech.
Truth essential.
No, they don't. They delete people and accounts that are critical of Trump, that posted things about the January 6th hearings. You also have Parler that bans leftist accounts. You have Gab that's just basically 90% neo-Nazis. And all the other conservative alt-Twitters that don't adhere to their own claims of being in favor of free speech. And you know why? No company is ever going to be able to actually do that. Because if people are allowed to openly post anything on those platforms, you're going to get the worst kind of content. I'm not kidding. They will post not only the most extremely vile, racist, and anti-Semitic things, but they'll also post things like child porn, which we're all against, or at least I hope we're all against it. Threats of rape and violence. People have posted pictures of their own excrement. Not kidding. This happened on Parler. Back in July of 2020, Parler's former CEO, John Motze, had told CNBC, quote, if you can say it on the street of New York, you can say it on Parler. Which is funny because Parler starts banning stuff that people say in the street of New York all the time, which is, and he admitted this later, saying that you can't repeatedly say F you to people or threaten to kill them. Again, you hear that on the streets of New York all the time. So I hear. A few days later, he declared that you can't, other stuff that can get you banned, porn. Well, that makes sense, right? Sure. Obscene usernames and pictures of your poop. But now that maybe Kanye, who bought Parler, will let people to go back to, posting pictures of their poop. But that's maybe after he gets done posting stuff about the Jews. Look, the whole idea of the right wing being pro-freedom of speech, it's a joke. It's an actual joke. The only freedom that they actually really care about is to be the worst people online imaginable that they can be. So, all right. Moving on. What you gonna do? Those bad cops. An Oklahoma police chief was recorded during a recent Citizen Police Academy bragging about how much fun it was to attack protesters against police brutality. So doing brutality against people who are against brutality. Let me show you some audio here.
Don't get caught up. That's what they want you to do. Yeah. Is this us versus them thing. Left versus right, white versus black. That's all crap. That's all crap. It is people who love this country and are willing to follow the law or make changes to the law against people who hate this country and want it to look more like the old Soviet Union or China. And some of those people, you know what? Andy and I, and I'm not going to lie to you, it was fun. When the anti-police riots started and they hit Tulsa, this is not Oregon or Seattle. You after target here, we will smoke your ass, right? And so I get to be undercover around a bunch of people at 71st and Memorial, and when they start breaking windows, it was beautiful. Because we're driving around going, here's some, come get them, SWAT boys, right? Like spanking a bunch of unruly kids.
It's beautiful. Like spanking a bunch of unruly kids. I couldn't wait to go and crack skulls. It was so fun. It was so fun. I was looking forward to it. You know what he's talking about? He's talking about largely peaceful protesters during the protests in 2020. This is after George Floyd was murdered by a police officer. Again, 93% peaceful. Now, look, an analysis actually found that the overwhelming majority of those protests of people that were arrested in 15 cities during these protests, you know the cities that right-wingers claimed that they burnt down. Antifa, BLM, they burnt down the entire cities. Minneapolis no longer exists anymore. It's just a giant pile of ash. No, that's not true at all. In fact, look, not only did the entire city's not burned down, because it's absolutely ridiculous to claim that, but the majority that were arrested in these cities were actually for nonviolent misdemeanors. Like, for example, charges of violating curfew and violating emergency orders. And the vast majority of those people actually also had their charges dropped. But of course, cops are like loving to arrest people, to treat peaceful protesters as rioters and actually start things. In fact, here's a quote here from Edward McGuire, professor of criminal justice at Arizona State University. He said this, quote, "When it comes to civil disorder, officers are trained to handle riots. They are not trained to handle peaceful demonstrations or even mostly peaceful protests. They often show up to crowd control events that are not yet riots and then handle them as if they were riots." So, yeah, you can kind of understand that when the cops roll up in giant, in body armor with giant shields and start chucking, tear gas into the protests, into the protesters, then you can understand how the protesters will then start throwing rocks and fighting back, throwing tear gas canisters back at the police who have escalated the situation. And then this is where you get a lot of the arrests. Cops will then come in and sweep everyone out after they started the whole thing. So this is what happens. Not in every situation, but it happens a lot, especially when you're dealing with black people. When you're dealing with anti-police brutality protests. They instigate. They do mass arrests. They escalate. And it's due to the training. Now, back to this training. This was given by a Sergeant, M. Griffin, and Lieutenant Andy McKenzie. So I said police chief. I was wrong on that. So making that correction here. Now, the person who had leaked this video, and it's great that they did, because this is what they honestly believe. They said that they were uncomfortable with what was said and had begun to record the rest of the training. So there was more. There was more disturbing stuff, enough to where the person's like, I got to record this. All right. In fact, here's a little bit more of that, the end of this video.
And here's what I want you to know. 90% of that crowd were white. Yeah, I agree. The dumb white kid who thinks playing video games with purple hair is his life's goal, he's a bigger problem. Right? He'll tell you this. I'm not just saying this to you. He has heard me say this many times. Nothing is more dangerous to America than a liberal white person.
Nothing is more dangerous to America than a liberal white person. Wow. So, the young person with the purple hair that likes playing video games. That's the danger to society. That's the problem. Not the resurgence of Christian white nationalism, which is Nazis. Not the anti-government groups who have literally murdered police officers. Not the MAGA chuds who beat up police in the Capitol building. What about the people who drove through crowds of peaceful protesters? Which happened in Tulsa. And which happened in Charlottesville. Had their hire killed, ran over by an insane racist. But no, the real danger is the young white liberal that is out there marching for social justice. That's the person. You better watch out for those people. Those people are dangerous. And you know what? They're actually right. They are dangerous because young white liberals are allies. They're threatened by these people because guess what? Having white people become allies and march in favor of black people threatens the social order. It looks real bad when you mace for example, a young white woman in the face. And that gets caught on TV. A lot of people are going to take the side of the young white woman, aren't they? That's what's happening all across the country. Or police. They're getting in trouble. They're getting filmed going after younger people who are protesting, not just younger people, by the way, but people who are protesting against police brutality. Most of the country didn't care when it happened to only black people. When you start getting white people involved, well, that's when people start to notice. That's why it's important for white people to be allies. And so, yes, this does threaten the police social order. They are allies and are no longer content to sit by and let black and brown peers be murdered by racist police officers. That's the real danger here. And that's why Tulsa, in Tulsa, the driver who ran to the crowd, by the way, the fact that, we have racist police officers, that driver didn't get in trouble. It seriously injured 3 people by driving into a crowd. Police in Tulsa declined to press charges. And the legislature actually later on passed a law granting immunity to drivers in a law that claimed that, you could protect yourself if you're fleeing a riot. You're fleeing a riot, you can run over anyone else. By the way, we're not going to really define what a riot is. We're going to leave that loose definition. Great. What that means is that in Oklahoma, it's open season on protesters, unless, of course, you're right wing. Now, that said, let me give you the Tulsa Police Department, who responded in a statement after this had happened. This came out earlier today. From the communications unit, Chief Franklin was made aware of comments made by a Tulsa police supervisor at a training session during the Citizens Police Academy on October 18th, 2020. During this training session, the supervisor expressed several personal opinions that are not acceptable for any Tulsa police officer to present as representation of the department. I got news for you. I think a lot of them share that same opinion. Chief Franklin has initiated an investigation into the incident, and the supervisor has been moved from their normal assignment and placed on administrative restrictive duty. So they get a nice little break from doing police work, but are still being paid. Quote from Chief Franklin: "I and members of the Tulsa Police Department stand committed to the citizens of Tulsa. We persevere to be a professional law enforcement agency in all aspects of our service. We take an oath as the Tulsa police officers to respect the dignity and rights of every individual. And any violation of that oath will be closely scrutinized and corrective action taken if appropriate. I am aware other police personnel may have been present. If the investigation reveals any police personnel failed in their duties, they will be held accountable." So basically, they're going to investigate themselves. Well, we all know how that's going to turn out. When police generally are allowed to investigate themselves, they usually let themselves go. I know, big shocker, right? Big shocker. They usually find out that they did nothing wrong. What a great system that we have. But maybe things will be different there. We'll see. But judging by the history of the Tulsa Police Department and the racist history in Tulsa, I'm going to guess that probably nothing will happen, and this guy will be back in the beat in no time. Can't reform that. Okay. So, moving on. You know what's funny? Before I go on to that, there is this wild claim in the right wing. Oh my God, it's the rioters, it's looters, it's the left, it's defund the police. That is what's killing our police officers. No, you know what actually the largest cause of death for police officers has been in the last couple of years? COVID-19. COVID. Yeah. Anyway. While the vast majority of scientists agree that climate change is an existential threat to human civilization doesn't seem to be doing much about it. In fact, according to new research, we're doing worse than before at reducing carbon emissions. So, yeah, NPR is reporting that collectively, the countries that have promised to reduce heat trapping emissions only did so by 3% by 2030 compared to 2020 levels. 3%. Do you know how much we need to reduce emissions? We're going to hit the targets. 45% by 2030. It's 2022. There's not much time left. You think we're going to go 43% in 8 years? Are you kidding? No, there's no way. Now, this is according to a new report from the United Nations Environment Program. Cutting emissions nearly in half by the end of the decade would put the world on track to limiting warming by 2.7 degrees Fahrenheit or 1.5 degrees Celsius by 2100. But at the current pace of emissions, the planet would heat up by about 5 degrees Fahrenheit, leading to more deadly heat waves and storms and the flooding of coastal cities due to polar ice melt. Now, of course, if you're a right winger, if you're somebody who's sitting in Congress and you're ancient, 2100, who cares? I'll be dead by then. Just think about, I'm not going to even think about my grandkids. I'll leave them a bunch of money. They'll figure it out. Well, there we go. 5 degrees. 5 degrees. Nobody is taking this seriously, even after they had promised to take this seriously, which shows you how much their promise is actually worth. Dick. Nada. Not worth the damn thing. More details here. As of September, only 24 out of the 193 countries had submitted more ambitious climate goals than was agreed to at the Paris Climate Agreement. This is according to a recent report by another UN body, the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. Expectations are low. So low that countries will make new, bolder pledges at the upcoming climate meeting in Egypt. War in Ukraine and inflation are drawing government's focus. Climate talks have been frozen in recent months between the two largest emitters, the United States and China. At the 2015 Paris Climate Summit, world leaders agreed that limiting climate change to 1.5 degrees Celsius was a critical target. Extreme hurricanes, floods, and heat waves could displace billions of people around the globe, making their lives and livelihoods untenable where they reside now, according to the report. Still, the new report shows that the current climate pledges, known as nationally determined contributions, are substantially short of the goal of hitting 1.5 degrees Celsius. So what happened? I mean, during the pandemic, a lot of people, there was a dip in emissions. Pretty big dip in emissions. However, since then, since everybody got back to work and we forgot about coronavirus, even though it's still going on, over 1 million people are dead. Guess what? Emissions are back on the rise and are expected to keep rising through 2030 when we're supposed to be cutting it. Emissions from burning coal, for example, reached their highest levels in history, largely driven by China. China, yes, are they investing in renewable energy? Sure, but they're also building brand new coal plants. So they're not doing any favors here. India also not doing any favors for the world, as well as the United States. And by the way, it's not just investing towards renewable energy and getting away from coal and oil and natural gas. The report also found that the rate of deforestation needs to slow down by 2.5 times. Now, that's what makes the Brazil election so important, where you have Lula da Silva, right, was the leftist candidate going against Jair Bolsonaro. During Bolsonaro's reign, he decided to allow more deforestation in the Amazon rainforest, getting to a point where the so-called lungs of the world, there's going to be too much damage done to replace the amount of carbon that displaces and oxygen that is pumped into the atmosphere. So that's not good at all. Bolsonaro wins again. Well, there goes that. So we need to end the deforestation, slow it down by 2.5 times. And they also found, the report, that electric cars need to be adopted about 5 times faster than they are now by 2030. Tick tock, running out of time. running out of time. Now, the thing about electric cars, and I think it's important to point this out, is that you have to have the energy that charges them come from renewable sources and not coal plants, or else you kind of undo the good that you're trying to do. If we don't make a massive investment, not just in the United States, but around the world, well, then we're screwed. In fact, Claire Fison of Climate Analytics says this about the report. Quote, we've never known more about the climate crisis. And we've never known more about what we need to do about it and how. This global report card about climate action makes clear that we are not moving fast enough. That is very, very clear. We are not moving fast enough. And unfortunately, with how corrupt these governments are and how addicted this world is to, fossil fuels, yeah, we're screwed. Doomed. That doesn't mean don't do anything. It doesn't mean that we shouldn't be pushing for renewable energy, pushing for ways to make, transportation that is less damaging to the environment, and not only the usage of it, but also the production of it. And that's also another problem, the manufacture of some of these things. Batteries taking up lithium and the mining that destroys, the surrounding environments. But my God, we got to start doing something. We got to stop putting so much carbon into the air. Or else, again, it's going to be bad tidings for us, for humanity in the future. Bad tidings indeed. Okay. Look, I don't have time to do the next story. We'll save that for tomorrow. And that is the do charity, get arrested story. That said, why don't we read a couple of super chats here and close out the show? Get prepared here. That. Okay. And if you haven't already, please like and share the stream. Very important that you do so. Real House Cats, thank you for the very kind $10. And Gavin Mathis, thank you for the very incredibly generous $50. And thank you for reporting on climate change. Again, I know how important it is, but I also know how depressing it is. And so you're not gonna hear really any good news in regards to the climate. So, but you're welcome for going super doomer black pill. And I don't mean to go super doomer black pill. It's just that we're not in a good situation right now. And it's hard for me to be, I guess, positive about what's coming down in the... But anyway, you're welcome. Okay, go to Twitch here. It doesn't look like there's anything here on Twitch, but of course you can help us out by becoming a subscriber on Twitch, your Amazon Prime account, to help us out. Free subby. I'm a black belt and black pilling. Oh man, not good. Not good. Let's see. Yep, that's about it. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Again, like, subscribe. You can super chat. You can super thanks. That's also cool because you can do, and all this good stuff. That said, love you all. Have a great night. We'll see you back here tomorrow for more fun and horrible news. Love you all. And remember, change.
The Republican Party's racist.
We have to keep our country gay.
Obama. Get in a long queue with a bunch of bees. Really?
It's not a salami sandwich. It's a viable baby in the womb.
Peachtree dish.
Disappointed! They're kicking me out the door. They're kicking me out the door.
Up yours, woke moralists. We'll see who cancels who.